Hi, I'm Ricky Fort and welcome to the Real Estate 101 podcast. Join me as I lift the lid on the real estate industry and share some great stories from behind the scenes. Like and subscribe and enjoy this episode. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Real Estate 101. I'm Ricky Fort from Geelong Real Estate Co. and I've got a very special guest today, Geelong icon Denis Walter. Welcome.
Ricky, good to be here.
That radio voice, I love that.
Oh, sorry. Good to be here. That better?
Yes, absolutely. Makes me feel more comfortable. The less professional, the better for me. But I'm very intimidated at the moment. Obviously, I've got Brandon on my right and Denis on my left, two of the better singers that have come out of Geelong. So I'm very excited.
Excellent. It's good to be here.
I hope you've got low expectations for the show. So we were chatting quickly before we got on air about your current radio work and stuff like that. Obviously, the gear we're using is probably worth about 1/100th of what you're currently used to using. But
not necessarily.
But thank you for being so kind. On that, I just wanted a brief introduction for those who don't know everything about Denis Walter. Everyone knows you, but may not know some of the great work you've been doing. So I did a bit of a LinkedIn deep dive. Hope that's okay.
Oh boy, yeah, LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I've asked around. So obviously some of your very charitable work includes the Cystic Fibrosis, Dementia Australia, the Make-A-Wish Foundation, obviously just to name a few. Order of Australia Medal by the Queen in 2015, released 16 albums.
That's right.
16 albums over 40 years. And obviously one of my...
no, it's for 52 years.
Apologies, we need to update.
I'm happy to say, but it's also with a bit of sadness. There you go.
One of my personal favourites, I've been to a lot of times, Carols by Candlelight. Obviously, I think that's everyone's.
Yep.
Have to be up there, favourite memories of yourself. TV host extraordinaire, but I think more importantly, the two main highlights for me is you used to work on Win TV, which I grew up in Ballarat, which was everything, and there was Prime Possum. Do you remember Prime Possum?
No.
Oh my God. I've been preparing for this podcast thinking you'd...
Who's Prime Possum?
Prime Possum used to come on at, I think it was either 6:30 or 7 p.m, and that's when the kids knew, when mum and dad were watching the news, and then Prime Possum come on and told everyone, all the kids to go to bed.
Oh, yes, no, I have heard about this, but see, I didn't live in Ballarat, and that was the opposition network. So I would, I'd come do the 6 news bulletins for all over Victoria,
yep,
and regional Victoria, and then I'd get in the car and drive back to Geelong, having driven to Melbourne in the morning to do radio, and then to Ballarat to do that, and then straight home. So
what a lifestyle. Me
and Prime Possum haven't had much to do with each other.
One other thing I was very excited to talk about though, Keno. And working with Lavinia Nixon.
Yeah, yes.
What a highlight.
Lavinia and I are friends, as Peter Hitchener and I are really close friends.
Yep.
But I've known Lavinia forever. And Lavinia didn't actually do any Keno, but we got to know each other in those years at 9.
Right. Okay. Tell me about the Keno days.
Well,
was that shot live, obviously?
No, it
wasn't.
No, it was recorded, but with government officials. So,
yep.
What happened was, now let me just go back through this.
What year was this? Was it 90s?
89.
Yep.
So, Ernie Sigley, when he was taken back into the fold at Channel 9, and they were looking for something for him to do prior to Ernie and Denise on morning shows,
yep,
which I was a part of, and Ernie and I was very, very close. But Ernie was, you're going to love this title, Ernie was given the role of producer of Keno. Now, Keno is 90 seconds.
Yeah.
And all it was, good evening, welcome to Keno. These are drawn here the judges. Here's the numbers. Good night. So he was executive producer of that. But that then led to him with back at 9 with Denise and doing the morning program.
Hilarious.
Anyway, Max Walker did the first 6 weeks to launch it, and then I took over and did 3 years or whatever of it.
And it just took off after that time.
It did. In fact, they took it off. now it's an online thing.
Oh dear, too funny. It's off to a good start. Tell me about, obviously, let's start. We'll go way back. We've got a great story. We can't jump ahead too far. Obviously, born in Geelong, grew up in Geelong. Mm-hmm. Tell me about that.
Well, Mum and Dad had fallen on really tough times. Dad had been on the land at Belbray. The property was either sold under them or whatever. I never actually found out the complete story. But my initial years, early years, were spent at Ceres. in a rental of a vicarage next to a Church of England. No electricity. This is around 1960 to mid to late 60s. So no electricity until just before we moved into Geelong. So you had to boil the copper to have a bath, or all that sort of, kerosene lamps, all that. It was a very grounded, for want of a better word, early years, and I didn't know any difference, so that was fine. But there was a lot of music in the house, a lot of playing table tennis in daylight, because you can't light a table tennis table with a kerosene light. It was a really good childhood.
Yeah, and so what schools and things were you
part of? Went to Ceres Primary, where I think there were 18 kids between grade 1 and grade 6, and one teacher for the whole lot.
Yeah, Brandon, your kids are still going out there now.
Oh, Ceres, great.
Yeah, it is a great school. I've done, what was the fundraiser we did for that? Just a trivia night out there. So that's how Brandon and I got to know each other. It was a lot of fun, but that's probably as far as my MC abilities go. So not quite as
You're going well
as
here.
yours. Thank you. Well, I'm off to a great start. Hey, fun fact about you. A little bit of Googling tells me that you share a birthday with Mel Gibson.
That's correct.
You already knew
that?
He
shares it with me. Okay.
Damn it, Brandon. I've been told off for not doing great prep work, and I thought, I'm going to knock this guy out of the park with this, and you already knew it.
I read Jock's Journal.
Well,
I'm on radio, you know.
I've got one more for you. You also share a birthday with Michael Schumacher. Did you know that?
Oh, no.
Thank you.
Whew, you got me on that one.
Yes. Okay, good. So we know you're very passionate about Geelong. Tell us a little bit about, what it was like, obviously, blazing a bit of a trail. Obviously, have there been many TV and music personalities and things of note that come before you out of Geelong?
I went to school with Chrissy Amphlett. To Belmont High School. We were in the same year right through, and I had a massive crush on her. Who else? Ian Cover.
We're dropping exclusives on the podcast. Yep.
Ian Cover was at Belmont High School as well. I'm trying to think of other people who've come from Geelong. There are a lot of theatre performers who have got huge profiles now who live in Geelong. Natalie O'Donnell, Kurt Labonte, and Natalie's husband, whose name, Simon Gleeson, whose name I've just forgotten. They're all living here now, which is great.
With a voice like that, you said you grew up in a musical household. Who was it? Was it mum or dad?
My mother was a bass baritone. No, my father. He was a classical singer, but he didn't have any. He had 4 children, the youngest of whom came along 8 years later. That would be me.
Right.
I might have made a mistake. I don't know, but. Dad had a great voice, a classical singer. He was in Sun Aria and South Street competitions in Ballarat, all that sort of stuff, and he just didn't have the opportunities that I've had.
Yeah. So when you talk about opportunities, I guess what were some of the first things that that you got a crack at?
School productions at Ceres Primary, end of year concerts with my auntie playing the piano, which was
a big audience, obviously.
Oh, there would have been at least 35 people. So,
and half of them you're related to.
Yeah, so. Possibly. And then after that, Belmont High School in the school productions.
That's a step up.
The Talent Quests.
Of course.
I sang Moon River in the first Talent Quest, and that then became my nickname at the school. And then when I was about 14 or 15, I went on Young Talent Time as a contestant, and I lost. But they invented the honourable mention. And
just for you.
Yeah, HM. And they put me through to the final, and I lost. But then I wasn't one to be deterred, and there was only one other program to go on at that point to try and get a career started, which was Kevin Dennis New Faces. I went on there and won the heat, then won the final, and then Young Talent Time invited me back to do requests, which ultimately led to recording.
Yep.
It led to being invited to go away with go to America with Liberace, which always makes people laugh for some reason. But it was the beginning. It was the beginning. But right back then, even back then, I also wanted to be involved with journalistic type things, which meant talk radio and television news. So I've been lucky that I've been able to do all of that.
Basically a triple threat. Have you dabbled in acting, yes or no?
I'll say yes. I did a cameo in the movie, the Working Dog movie, Any Questions for Ben, was it called?
Okay.
And it was a mock-up of me singing at carols by candlelight and looking out on the candles. So there's a young couple. The young couple is at home and they're canoodling on the couch. So, and they're watching carols by candlelight, and I can't remember the scene exactly, but it starts to get a bit raunchy.
Yeah.
And my comment on the stage is, "If only you could see what I can see from up here." It was a very funny line. My other bit of acting, which was really recent, Working Dog again, Tom Gleisner wrote a new play called Bloom, which is just finished playing in Melbourne with Frankie J. Holden. And they asked me to do the serious voiceover at the beginning about the retirement village being the place to live in your retirement years. So yes, I'm an actor.
Oh,
I've been on screen and stage acting for 2.5 minutes.
I feel naturally like you're actually a really funny guy, which I wasn't expecting. Like, have you've never been tempted to have a go at comedy?
Oh, I do. No, I'm not a comedian, but I have fun when I'm on stage with the audience. Yeah,
yeah.
But that comes with experience. When I first started, I was so shy.
Yeah.
And it's only with experience and a bit of confidence that you...
Well, that leads really well into my next question. So in terms of, maybe kids that are thinking about getting experience and trying to build confidence, what do you recommend? What are some things that... Obviously, I think times have changed, obviously, with YouTube, and you can get on and watch tutorials and things like that. But just in terms of like how to present to a camera or how to speak into a microphone or how to, what do you recommend?
Well, there are plenty of tools, as you mentioned, available to help people these days that weren't there. I mean, they're at your fingertips. You can go onto your YouTube, or you can Google someone, like even someone watching you doing what you're doing now with the podcast.
That's a low bar. I wouldn't be aiming to try and replicate this.
No, but what you're doing, you're putting yourself out there, and a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
I've got people even that I'm related to who could have really gone on some of those talent shows and I think probably taken on the world.
Yeah.
But you've just got to have a go. You've got to have a go, and you've got to get as much experience in different areas as you possibly can, and keep your ears open. Don't presume at any point that you've got it all sorted, because you won't have.
Talking about maybe career highlights or lowlights, I feel like, surely you've had a wardrobe malfunction or...
Yes.
Give me something.
Yes.
Give me some of the spicy
I did a
ones.
late adjustment of my fly walking on stage one night. It was down and it shouldn't have been.
Selling hot dogs, as they say.
I was at Eastern Suburbs Leagues Club in Sydney. I was on stage. I got to the end of the show, and someone in the audience said, "You got your dry cleaning tag on your cuff." So I looked down. It was to the away from me, so I didn't see it at any point. I hadn't taken the tag off. So
where was the help?
Oh, look, there have been so many things that happened. There was a club in Sydney, and I wasn't there this particular night, but they had this show called, the same as in Las Vegas, of Dancing Waters, where the water dances to the music. So they had to bring in the giant tank. They filled the tank. Everyone turned up to the grand opening of their brand new auditorium in their dinner suits and whatever. And just as the show was about to begin, the tank exploded and sent all of the water straight out into the crowd. Hilarious. I've got a pile of those stories, but I won't give you any more now. The poor people.
Yeah, it's hard to keep it together. Well, that answers that question. Best or worst thing? Give me some highlights. What were some of the better things that had happened in your career that might have taken you by surprise, or whether it be live performances or,
Having my father on Carols by Candlelight was a highlight, because Dad had, as I mentioned before, he'd never had the opportunities to do the things that I've been able to do. So he was so nervous. And I'd just like to thank Remy Martin Brandy, because that's what got him on stage. Good. He was so nervous. And on the way home in the car, he'd had a couple and was singing along with John Farnham. It was around Whispering Jack era. So I think he thought rock and roll was ahead for him. He was nearly 80.
So he enjoyed it?
Oh, he just loved it. Yep. Loved it.
More importantly, what did the crowd think of it?
Oh, they thought it was... I still get people...
Yep.
It used to be every week. It's probably once a month now, mentioning 1991 or whatever it was with Dad, because it was really special. And then my niece Julie was on Carol's with me, Carol's Melbourne and my own one here. And then last year, my great niece Zoe and my niece Julie and myself on Geelong and also on Channel 9 on Christmas Eve. Very important. And there's another sister to Zoe, so we might go for the quartet this year. We'll see.
That. Yeah. I remember what year it was with COVID and they cancelled. People were up in arms. It's something that the Geelong community really look forward to. Yeah,
it's I'm proud of it. 1997 we started, and it grew. It got immediately accepted, but it's grown into something really big that the city should be proud of. But other things along the way, Ricky, being asked to do a command performance in London for the Queen Mother was a thrill. One at the Opera House here for Prince and Princess Michael of Kent, and being given the OAM, which I have no idea who. You don't find out who nominated you, but someone obviously. But I don't think you get those things if you just because you're a singer or a media performer. I think people have got to have seen more of you, like the charitable work you were talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm proud to. First time it's been mentioned anywhere, but I'm a new ambassador for Lifeline for Geelong in the Southwest. So,
awesome.
Which is great.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, it's a real.
How did that come about?
They approached me, and I'm involved with about 13 or 14 different things now.
You are an approachable guy. You're hard to get. Obviously, you're very busy, but I love that even with everything you're doing, that people can still reach out to you and you're willing to take more on.
I don't try and keep myself at a distance from people. I'm the exact opposite. Peter Hitchener's exactly the same. Someone on air at 3RW this week in Pete's segment said, you seem to do a lot of work for the community. Well, we've talked about that, and it's very easy to lend assistance. You might only be at a function once a year for a charity. You might do charity walk or whatever. It's no effort. And if you've got a public profile, I think there's some responsibility to be a part of the community that supports you.
Well, we thank you very much for coming on the show and being part of it and living by your values. What I was on the breakfast radio show the other night with Neil Mitchell, just about talking about Geelong and a couple of different suburb profiles and stuff. He's an intimidating guy. I was shitting my pants.
So were you in studio?
No, it was just over the phone.
Yep.
They called me like at 7 a.m. or something and said, we need you to come on. So, I wasn't...
I'll pass on to Neil that you caused that problem for Ricky.
He was absolutely terrifying. My mother-in-law was saying, whatever you do, make sure you address him as Neil and don't, so it's incredible what he's been doing as well. So tell us a little bit about the charity work. So obviously the Make-A-Wish Foundation and
RVIB for Carols by Candlelight. That association's been going since I've done 43 carols, approximately 43 Carols by Candlelight's the Channel 9 one. What else? There's Neuroscience Foundation. They're a part of them. Dementia Australia. Cystic fibrosis.
So again, how are you getting involved? People just reaching out to you?
Yes, and then you do whatever is required of you.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just want you as put your head on a thing to let people know that you're supporting their cause. But others, you do as much. It was the Austin Hospital. I was ambassador for and still am for them, and got involved with Olivia with the wellness centre. It's not hard. It doesn't take much of your time, and you feel good.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that law of reciprocity and doing something for other people.
Law of what?
Reciprocity?
It's a big word.
How dare you? Tell us a little bit about, obviously, it is a real estate podcast. We haven't touched on that at all, and we probably don't even need to. It's been so much fun. But tell me a little bit about, obviously, where are you living?
At home. No, I spent, that was very smart, Alec Dennis.
That's good, I like that.
We lived, the first home we bought was in Cobden Street in Highton. The second home we bought was in View Street in Belmont. And then the third one was in Newtown.
Yep.
And the last 12 years we've lived in Wandana Heights, which we love.
Yep.
We'll probably come back in at some point, but I can't see any point doing it at the minute. We love it out there.
Yeah.
You sort of get from up high, you get to watch the weather as it moves across the region. We can see down to Torquay, see the coast, see the lights of Cardinia Park.
Yep. I feel, and you obviously are a big Cat supporter. Are you disappointed with this year?
A little bit.
Yeah.
But a lot of injury. I mean, without the injuries, we probably would have been in the finals. We mightn't have necessarily gone the whole way.
Yeah.
But when you start losing players like Blitzas and you don't have Cam Guthrie in there for the entire season, and then Jeremy Cameron gets injured and the Hawk gets injured, Gary Rowan gets injured, it depletes.
Have you done any footy commentating?
No.
Not even locally or anything?
Actually, I did something years ago. I wasn't very good. I can remember that.
I suppose enjoying it and being able to, be a great caller, obviously two different things.
Yeah, and I learned...
Very different skill set.
I learned don't ever try and be an auctioneer, because at neuroscience one year they asked Ernie and myself, Ernie Sigley and me, to be the auctioneers.
We're great in front of the microphone. How hard can this be?
Oh, not hard at all. And they didn't have anyone spotting.
Oh, excellent.
And so we're in a dark auditorium. We
With the light
couldn't get the lights up, and
Yeah.
we've got the spotlight on.
Yeah.
And Ernie, he had the concentration span of a housefly. It was the worst experience ever, and we didn't raise that much money.
Too funny. I recently did the cystic fibrosis one at the at the Cattery. It was a ball, and we raised a truckload of money. It was a lot of fun, but we did it with Lee Stampsey from K Rock or iHeartRadio, and we had a couple of us spread across. Obviously, it's a huge room.
You've got to have
there.
spotters.
Yeah, I think there was about 5 of us in the end, but raised a lot of money, which is great. I think 100 and something thousand, which is fantastic. Back to Geelong. Do you think you're still an advocate for real estate and obviously you're in the media, what's people are spruiking the market and how it's going down here, and it's a great place to live. Obviously, all the white collar jobs, NDIS, WorkSafe, TAC.
It's the city. There are people who probably don't like the city skyline rising like it is, but
what do you think?
Well, to me, that is growth. That work cover building, I just think, is a work of art.
Yeah.
And I'm not big on modern architecture, but just to retain the bottom bit, the bottom part, and restore its facade, and to have that magnificent building on top,
done a great job.
is brilliant.
Was it the old Carlton Hotel? I think.
No, Carlton's just slightly
NDIS.
Further up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's NDIS. What they've done
NDIS
with that as well. Yeah.
But there's a lot happening here, and I was at an auction just a couple of weekends ago, and again, it was a Melbourne couple who bought the property.
Yeah, it's a pretty familiar story. Obviously, there's still so much to love about being down here. One thing I was keen to get your take on, just because, of your connection to Geelong. Do you remember back to the pyramid days?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you have finance or anything at the time?
No.
Yeah. Were you living in Geelong at the time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was an odd time, and there were periods there where everyone thought, the city will never recover, but ultimately it does, and it has, and it's booming.
I guess, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, because at the moment, obviously, the economy for a lot of people it's a tough time out there with 13 interest rate rises in 14 months. There's talks of recession and things like that. I guess from your experience and living through the pyramid days, and what kind of confidence do you give to the younger generation that might be doing it tough or whatever at the moment?
I guess, and it's only really in my latter years that I've been sensible with money. I've always been good at making it, but I'm not.
You're great at spending it as well.
Not an expert in it,
saving it
at all.
Yeah.
But people just need to live within their. Don't worry about keeping up with the neighbours and all that sort of stuff. But I do feel so sorry for people who have had faith that interest rates would stay lower and affordable for them. And at the moment, with people coming out of fixed rates,
that mortgage cliff that you hear about,
it'd be terrible. It'd be shocking. And even the things from the pandemic with building companies going broke. Can you imagine that going through that whole thing of getting your block, building your house, seeing it all fenced off and getting towards completion, and suddenly you're not going to be allowed to take possession? Heavens, that is horrible.
How old are your kids?
I'm Oh, you haven't asked me about that part
No,
of my
I
life.
haven't.
Oh, and look at you. You're
Here we go.
aching for this bit of information.
I am.
Okay.
Do they need to sell?
When, at 21, I took on. Hang on. I was a girlfriend with twin daughters at 21. So they were 2. They turned 50 next year. So and we got 2 grandchildren. Both my daughters were expected to not be able to have kids, and both of them have had 1 boy each, which is lovely.
Is there any other singing from here down in the family?
One of the grandchildren can sing, but has chosen not to. I got him up at Carol's Geelong, and he's never sung to this day. I think he thought that's for you, Pop, not for me.
He looked out at this. So you're Pop?
Yeah.
Yeah. Love that. And your wife is?
Nan.
Pop and Nan. Any advice for the 20-year-old Dennis, whether it be real estate, business, confidence?
Have a bit more faith. I always thought, because I was born with this deep voice, that when the career got really firing up when I was about 15, I thought the constant thought on my mind was the novelty's going to wear off. And I'm worrying about that. And I laugh now when I think back that that's what I was worried about. It was probably a genuine thing to worry about, but when I was about 23, so the career had been going for a while, I just made a commitment to myself that I would work as hard as I possibly could and see where I can go. Yeah. And here I am at 68, and it's still going, so it's good. You're doing something right. Dennis, we could talk for ages. Thanks so much for coming on the show, and as I said, being very generous with your time and people reaching out to you. Really appreciate it. Great to be here. Ricky, thank you. You're a good man.